I wanted to go over the comments of my last video real quick. I'm not going to read any of them. You'll have to just pause the video in order to read them yourself. I'll go ahead and enlarge the screen here so that they're more legible. But I made some points here, blanket statement, because some of these questions are just straw man arguments that don't touch on any of the points of the film. So here's the points that I've outlined that I will reply to. If someone has legitimate statements to be made about the subject matter in this film that would lend to explaining these anomalies, please write them, send it to me. I'll comment on it. I've done research on this, folks. I didn't just wake up and decide, oh, the Bible's right and Earth's flat. No, I've researched this for quite some time. So arguments about me not understanding the model, given the nature of the parameters and the statements made, shows me that maybe these people like Paul here don't know it as well as they think they do. So part 2 and part 3 will shed more light on what I'm talking about. But go ahead and pause it and read these statements here and my replies so that you understand what I'm trying to say. At the tail end of my last video, I showed a series of solar eclipses, and that are these right here, up to 2018. Discounting the D-shaped paths at the polar extremes, so to speak, and just concentrating your attention for a minute at the shapes of the paths at the center or the mid, equatorial regions of the ball Earth, you'll notice that every one of these paths go in opposition to what the moon is doing at the node. So when they say D node, that means the moon is descending. So if this was the sun here and we're looking at it, the moon's going like this. But in reality, they claim the moon is traveling this direction that the path goes, but why wouldn't it match the actual movement the moon is doing at the time it crosses the sun at a shallow 5-degree angle? See, they're all opposite. And that's just these in this video that I showed you are opposite. Not all these paths are opposite. Sometimes they agree. Sometimes if it's a descending node, the path will go down. But these are observations you should make when you question this information they give us to expose it for the lie that it is. Only lies contradict themselves. I wanted to make some remarks about some comments made on my last video here. As we know, the temerity at which your detractors wish to malign your ideas gives rise to the information that you're putting forth as being more than just hot air, if you will. Must be something to it. For all these Ball Earth atheistic believers to come forth and just make comment after comment belying little tidbits of things in the video where you misspeak on different things, but it really doesn't change the temerity of the argument. They have no real point. They wish to try and bedazzle people with archaic expressions, with false paradigms to try to belittle what your argument is. But no one has said a word about the simple fact that if the waxing gibbous moon was what we saw in the New Mexico footage of the horizontal lunar eclipse, that has to be where it was in its phase when that eclipse video was taken. That contradicts their claim that it was 100% full moon, according to time and date, mooncalc.org, at that time. Okay? So there's a contradiction. As we know, only lies contradict themselves. And this is the point that proves Jesus is right. The moon gives its own light. Now, putting words in my mouth that I didn't say, like the cycle repeats on an approximate schedule with the smallest time increments being hours. Yes, that's what they show. All right. All professors in college and NASA, they all explain it at 18 years, so many days, and so many hours, it will come back. And if it's the same Soros number, it will have the same geometry, only shifted. Okay? The problem is there's 39 different cycles. We don't have 39 different moons. So why would we have 39 different paths going on in our present era? Makes no sense. Okay? Now, minutes and seconds and all this stuff using heliocentric model data are predicted within a few seconds. That's not true, see? You're going on information published after flat earth became a thing, and then they start talking about all these different things being true, where computer programs are used and all this stuff. What I told you from day one, Paul, is that if it were true that they were using this to predict it, they would publish it. Remember, you drew the 3 space balls to try to show us the 2017 eclipse and how it could work. I had to draw the space balls to scale because after trying to download the model that AutoCAD said they drew to scale of the whole solar system, you can't find it. Just like these billion-dollar agencies would use 3D models if it worked. They wouldn't have to run around with programs or anything because the accuracy of AutoCAD is unsurpassed when it comes to mathematical accuracy. So anything else is, not as good. So that shouldn't happen. And time and date is using information provided by NASA. Okay? This last comment here where you say, I never once said or anyone else uses 3D model to predict the eclipses. No, I've said that. I've constantly told you that if these space balls were real, and this is how it happens, they would use 3D models to predict eclipses, and they would show it to us instead of giving us cartoons and showing us that as the excuse for why these bodies move the way they do when they explain, for instance, the 2017 solar eclipse. You go on to say they use mathematical models. Yes, based in the 1800s. Okay, I'll show you that. As verified by Fred Hispanic, who clearly states computer programs and spherical trigonometry are used. Question again. I know I mentioned this about 9 months ago in an email to you. On web pages produced after flat earth became a cultural phenomenon in 2014, 2015, they began the statements of computer programs and spherical trig are used. But if you go back, as I'm going to show you here, and I told you then, you look at pre-flat earth web pages that they produced, they talked about observations, okay? They talked about old math formulas. Now they equate the math formulas to tidal pull from the moon, slowing down the spin of the earth. But in reality, all you would say instead of that is plug in observational error, correction for observational error. Because in every one of these, they all talk about observations, data from observations. And then when they cycle around 18 years later, they observe it better and more accurately. That's all this is. But yet they're not saying that. But I want you to explain all the anomalies I'm going to show you since you want to bend over backwards to defend the statist view. No, you and people of your ilk will not like it, but you can't deny it. It'll be put in your face. You'll have to confront the oddities and anomalies that should not occur if this heliocentric ball Earth model of our cosmos was true. When it comes to predictions of when the solar eclipse occurs, you'll see this happen time after time. Published observations. They refer to observations. So from 1955 to now, they're obtained from observations. Now, if you'll go to web pages produced after, say, 2015, when flat Earth became a cultural phenomenon, so to speak, you'll see a lot more emphasis on things like satellites, lunar objects from Apollo missions, things of that nature are crept into the data. But the older stuff is indicative of these facts. Like this here, the uncertainty in delta t, or time. Okay? The uncertainty in time is particular interest in the calculation of eclipse paths in the distant past and future. Unfortunately, estimating the standard error for delta t, or time, prior to 1600 CE is a difficult problem. It depends on a number of factors, which include the accuracy of determining time from historical eclipse records. You're going to notice this theme throughout: records. Okay? Modeling of physical processes, producing changes in Earth's rotation, yada, yada, yada. Down here, uncertainties in longitude. They show you the mathematical formulas that they use. Again, you don't see any computer programs, any modeling, anything like that. But again, to reiterate, during the 2,500 years of observations, okay, this is where all this stuff is based. And the path is more accurate the closer you get to modern history, because we're using different things like telescopes in the modern era after 1600. They're more precise clocks for when they time these things, so they know the length that it will last. And they're more accurate with the start and end times. You can see how they're off by less and less over time, because their measurements are more sophisticated, more accurate. A couple of keys to these maps. The X here is the marks the subsolar point or geographic location where the sun appears directly overhead at the zenith. And again, the Soros number, the key to know. Eclipses with the odd Soros number take place at the ascending node of the moon's orbit. Those at the even numbers take place on the descending node. I've looked at a lot of information for these total solar eclipses, and one thing I've not found an answer to, which I'd like to know, is why the diameter or size of the shadow of the total solar eclipse changes. This is interesting. They say the 2005 solar eclipse was an annular and a total. Isn't that a little strange? How can that happen? I would really like to see if you could make an AutoCAD model of this here in July 2018 around the South Pole. How does that work out? Because aren't we tilted toward the sun in the summertime up north? So how could the path ever get down here around the South Pole here? Here's where the moon and the sun are supposed to be. Think about it. Again, the opposite is true here on January 6, 2019. The asterisk here designates the point at greatest eclipse, okay? So how can the partial solar eclipse here be up near the North Pole in January? Again, here's the information of where the moon and the sun are supposedly at. How's this possible? Again, another one of these paths. Think about how fast they claim the sun, or the Earth orbits the sun, and then look at this over 6 hour duration for this eclipse here. Think about that. Does that make sense? I just wanted to open this one from the United States in 2017. So in PDF format so we could get a better view of it here. Here's where they claim the moon and the sun was when this eclipse occurred. And, whoops, I couldn't help but to think that this path must be wider because they keep drawing it at different sizes. And on this map here, you can see they claim the width is 197.5 kilometers, or roughly 122 miles. Now check this out. So the August 21, 2017 solar eclipse, I remember, around 70 miles wide. And look here, it's only 114.8 kilometers. Okay, the one in 24 that's going from the south to the north is 122 miles wide, and this is only 70 miles wide. How does that keep happening? Remember, here's the size, here's where the moon and the sun supposedly is. So in 1986, when they were publishing this information, they gave you a lot more information on their map than they do now. But I think it rather odd that the diameter of the moon shadow on the Earth changes by that much. That's pretty drastic, from 70 miles to 122 miles. Wow. Look at this total solar eclipse from July 2019. It claims its width is going to be 200 kilometers wide. It's quite interesting to see how they spoke about these things back in 1986, for instance, when this paper was published. All path characteristics calculated at sea level, and the effects of refraction have been ignored. Well, my last video, we proved refraction is false anyway. It doesn't exist as it relates to this thing. So yes, let's ignore it. But more importantly, look at this delta T, as I mentioned earlier from more recent pages, how they explain, they calculate that and how it fluctuates. Unpredictable fluctuations in the Earth's rotation, yeah, right. Observational errors, I would say, you put in the place of that. But time determination in Appendix A we'll look at later. But the result in this divergence will introduce a shift in the coordinates east or west, right? Start and end. Fortunately, the corrections or tabulated longitudes are quite straightforward, using the following equation. Again, it's math. It's observation and maths. No computer programs at all. Also interesting to note in this 1986 article here that the references all equate to, tables and calculations, right? There's not a single solitary computer model or program involved in any of this. Nowhere, as I've stated. Only now do they start talking about using laser rangers on the moon and all this funky stuff. Here it's all just a bunch of statistics. Okay. Another interesting thing to note from this publication produced by NASA in 1986 is the choice of maps. As a flat earther, I know that this is makes perfect sense why they would choose this map. It's a cylindrical projection map of the Earth. Each map is centered at the equator and covers 160 degrees in latitude, 80 north and 80 south. Well, the sun can never go directly over the North Pole, so there can't be an eclipse up there anyway. And there is no South Pole, so that's perfect. And look here. It covers the entire planet. That's a true statement. This explanation here for these 8 non-central eclipses. They're easily recognized by their distinctive D-shaped paths. and from the fact that the point of the greatest eclipses lies on the terminator edge of the path. Okay, that's why these shaped paths don't make sense, and they go off into outer space. They have missing edges, so to speak. Now, how in the world would it be possible to have an eclipse if all three space balls are lined up on the ecliptic plane? How could the path ever go off the northern edge of the ball Earth or off the southern edge and then come back? It's impossible. Just to reiterate, below each map are the geocentric coordinates of the sun and moon at the instance of greatest eclipse. They are consistent. They consist of right ascension, declination, apparent semi-diameter, and horizontal parallax. Here are the accuracy of the ephemerids. See all these? You're not no computer program at all. Okay? They talk about the error rate that you'll find down here. Okay? 0.9 seconds of time shift. Okay? As one could see if you were to stop and read this publication from 1986, we don't have what I would term newspeak, where they've inserted all this ball earth mumbo jumbo about the speed of the earth slowing down due to tidal friction and all of this. They just simply tell you that they've had errors, and here's how they've corrected the errors, and it's all about coordinates and, just math. I just want to go through quickly and document the total solar eclipse shadow diameter size change. I guess that would be the moon changing its size during this total solar eclipse. Remember, if it's not perfectly aligned up, you won't have a total solar eclipse. You'll have an annulus. So how could the diameter change? 168.6 kilometers. July 1990, total solar eclipse. Diameter or width is 201 kilometers. Total solar eclipse, 1991, centered in Mexico. All right, not too far south from where the 2017 eclipse was, right? And now look at the diameter of it, 258 kilometers. Remember, the path in 2017 was only 70 miles wide. You're just south of that, and now we're 160 miles wide? I mean, come on, people. Is the moon really changing its size? Or is that not the moon occulting the sun? Again, ball earthers, I want you to explain how the diameter of the total solar eclipse shadow depicted here, centered over Mexico, has a huge diameter compared to the 2017 total solar eclipse that had a path over this direction in North America, and its diameter was 70 miles wide. Look at this, 258 kilometers wide. You can't say that it's closer to the sun, because again, that would create what they call an annulus. So how does the diameter change? Go from 70 mile wide to 160 mile wide, or 258 kilometers. Explain that to me. You can't. Has your trusted source over here, have they miscalculated? Okay, this isn't the only occurrence. We'll go through it. Like my research has shown me from their explanation of Saros cycle 136, they claim that it creates some of the largest eclipse times. Could it be that all these Saros cycles, they claim right now we have 39 different cycles in operation? Okay? If that's true, and this is number 36 of 71 just for this path, and all of these in this Saros cycle will have the same geometry, they'll go like that. Could it be that this is a invisible orb circling the sun, and only when it gets between us and it will it create this path and darken the sun. And there are 40 of them or 39 of them circling all the time. I'm just spitballing, but this is proof it cannot be the moon. It doesn't fit their story. 1992, look at its diameter. Now the path is 182 miles wide, dark area. Remember, the annular solar eclipse is explained in our model as you'll see an annulus, right? A circle of the sun, because at that point the moon is too close to block the entire sun in its orbit, right? Funny thing is, wouldn't the path be smaller if it's closer, right? The diameter of this path, right? Look at this, folks. This is over North America again, same geographic location. 2017, the path this way went of the total solar eclipse with a 70-mile totality shadow. The diameter was 70 miles wide. 1994, an annular eclipse, right? Where you're still seeing some of the sun. It's going over the same area this direction. And what is the diameter of that shadow? 200, is that 30 or 90? We'll just say 230 kilometers. Now, I really hate to bust your ball Earth model. Not really, but you know what I mean. Again, 238 kilometers, that's double what the 2017 total solar eclipse path that went right here, crisscross. Okay? It's impossible, folks. You know that. Your model's busted. This is an annular, so the umbra shadow should be smaller, not twice the size of a total solar eclipse. Like I've said, your model makes no sense, and they know it. That's why they don't talk about the details. The details expose the lie. Wake up. Okay, another one. 1994. There's the path. Okay. 189 kilometers wide. So this one's only 117 miles wide. Doesn't add up, folks. Okay, let me point out another little anomaly for you here, folks. April 29th. The vernal equinox is March 21st, I believe. So that's when the equator of the Earth should be aligned with the ecliptic plane according to their map. But look here, we've got an annulus eclipse right around the equator a month late. And this little asterisk here denotes where the sun really is. Again, just another little factoid that contradicts our model. Given their description that they claim that all the central located eclipses are longer in duration and should be bigger, the width doesn't match that idea. Hey, look at this tiny little path here. Crazy. 76 kilometers wide, so I guess the moon went on a diet and lost weight. Got smaller for this total eclipse in October 95. What is that, 48-mile diameter shadow? Makes no sense. Total eclipse of February 1998, near the equator. Again, where you would expect to see the largest one, right? 151 kilometers wide only. Produces a ring around the sun. It's not big enough to cover it, right? So how big is this one? 98 kilometers. Okay. Here's another one, 1999. Oh, this is going to be skinny. Look how skinny the path is there. How big? Wow, 28 kilometers. About 17 mile wide diameter shadow. Come on, people, wake up. I wanted to show you this again because July 2000, remember the tilt of the ball Earth. How in the world can you produce a path down around the South Pole? Think about it, folks. Doesn't correlate to this tilted ball Earth model we supposedly live on. All the three space balls lined up on the ecliptic plane. How could the path track down here? when it's tilted the opposite direction, supposedly. Look here, a month later, I guess the Earth snapped back to its original position and tilted the way it's supposed to, because now we've got a path up near the North Pole. Okay, again, we're in December. We're tilted away. This here little asterisk is where they claim the sun is, but yet our path is up here over North America. Makes no sense. Now you understand why Jesus said that the sign of Jonah, which is a solar eclipse, be the only sign given. It's all you need to know that you're being lied to by the powers that be. And if they're lying to you about what's under your feet, what makes you so sure they're not lying about everything else? Are you sure you're an evolved monkey? Nothing you do matters? Or is there a God? And is the Bible probably the book that he wants you to believe in? Yet more nonsense. June 2001, and a path starting in the very southern hemisphere, okay, when the sun is supposedly up here above the equator. Think about it. Makes no sense. Now look at this. At least it more or less goes along with their story on this one. The annular, remember, it must be smaller. Look at this little narrow shadow. Look how small this is. 13 kilometers wide. But notice when they change, it's always a different Saros number. This is just another example how they use this newspeak, as I call it. If you can see, this web page was updated 2018 when compared to the 1986 version of what they said. The predictions are made on this, and that'll probably say it's a computer model or something. But anyhow, they go on to tell you the accuracy in the northern and southern edges are off by approximately 1 or 2 kilometers, and it's due to lunar limb profile, or the Earth's rotation, and due to tidal forces or friction. And you see all of this stuff reinforcing this ball Earth garbage and it moving and the moon being the cause of all this stuff. For those ball earthers out there that want to poo-poo the idea that if you're looking at a date on a web page by these liars published after flat Earth became a thing, like this one in 2018, you're going to start seeing garbage when they talk about how they predict it. And you'll click on that and it'll talk about a computer program. But see, prior to flat Earth becoming mainstream, you didn't see none of that. And in case you want to think that's just coincidence, allow me to show you what I've been telling you a long time, and that is the truth is in the anomalies. I happened on this path when I was going through this, producing this to find paths in the last 35 years from this website. They published in 1986, thinking I might find some good information, and I did. They published a map that produced the path width in kilometers, right? And I saw this odd width of 4,000-mile wide path for this particular eclipse right here. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, they made a mistake. But no, look here. Circumstance at greatest eclipse, and they say the path is 0. Now watch this. Same path, 2003, May 31st. It's an annular eclipse up near the North Pole. And look here, it starts out with a 0 path, right? Look down here. Greatest eclipse duration, look at that. 4,663 kilometers. Greatest eclipse. But now look when the date was published. 2014, baby. See that? Just like I said, 1986, same guy, Fred Hispanic or whatever, up near the North Pole, annular eclipse. Look at this, 4,497 kilometers, okay, at greatest eclipse. See the width? So it's not a mistake. They just chose to omit it in newer versions of this information. Last thing I want to show you with regard to this eclipse, okay, same one, all right, is this map here. on Google. So you can see from here, okay, you can only see 77% of it being blocked. Up here, 82%. Look here, 72%. Now look here, no solar eclipse, but now the sun's supposedly down here somewhere, but you can't see it from here. You can't see it from here. You can't see it from here. You can only see this annular eclipse from up here. Okay? Look at that, 88%. And this is how you know it's 4,000 miles wide, because you see the same percentage blocked for this big wide area here, this 4,400 mile wide area. See how it's blocked? 88%. See, 88%, 88%, all the way out here on this edge. Last thing I wanted to show you that seemed odd was the path. Look here, it contacts at P1 and ends at P4. P1 is right here, goes around here. I know this is the midnight sun, but look, P4. Okay, very strange. They don't show this on other newer versions of this. Another total eclipse, 2003 November, down around the South Pole. Look how wide this path is, very strange. Look at this, 496 kilometer wide. Again, when you look at this canon of eclipses, what did they say as far as gathering the information, predictions? See here, they talk about theories, math formulas, more or less, no computer, programs, and then pre-1950s, historical records. 1955 to present, published observations. So with each observation, and these things repeat every 18 years, they get more and more accurate. That's how this stuff is done. As I've learned from investigating this, the same Soros number in successive years will have similar geometry around the same area. Now look here, folks, look at this D-shaped path. Now in the document produced by Fred, Mr. All Things Eclipse Wise at NASA in 1986-87, he said the eclipse at the greatest point, that's right here where this asterisk is, went to the terminator line of the Earth. Now this is impossible if all three space balls are lined up on the ecliptic plane. There's no way for it to go off the terminator of the Earth and then come back down the path. You can't do that, folks. This is silly. Don't make no sense. But now, I want the ball earthers to explain to me how. They love to comment. Paul, Odeleaf, please give me a comment. I didn't think anyone could refute the information in my last video, but I got 27 comments. Just give me one each on how this happens in May 2003. Because I'm going to show you maps where this path can be seen over 4,000 kilometers. Now that makes perfect sense on the ball Earth if it's circling around the North Pole. You can see farther. Remember the midnight sun? Come on, people, wake up. So, right here, this is Soros 147, 2003, up near Greenland and Iceland. And right here, 2039, it's still Soros 147. I'll look at it. A little further north, look how long it is. It's crazy. Here's June 21st, or 2021, June 10th. Again, this is Soros 147. Look at the path. Okay. And again, look at the date this was uploaded, and now look at the acknowledgments they give you on the predictions. And again, they're going to tell you that's a computer program. Here's a partial eclipse, July 13th, 2018, down around the South Pole in the summertime. This is winter and it should be tilted away, so not really possible, is it? Toward the end here on page 244 of this 1986 document, they begin to speak about the parameters of the geometry of the eclipse, so to speak, and thought it was of interest that the claim the path of the umbra is rarely more than 300 kilometers wide. Well, we know that's not true. We found several incidents where it's larger by quite a bit. Doesn't make sense. And they also claim that the path goes from west to east. Well, the 2021, or I believe 2024, the total eclipse over America is going to go from Mexico up over Lake Erie. So that's southwest to northeast. As for when the eclipses reoccur, it states this is the origin of the famous Saros cycle, 6,585 and 1/3 days, or 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. Any two eclipses separated by one Saros will share very similar mechanical characteristics. They occur at the same node with the moon at the same distance from Earth and at the same time of year. Because the Saros does not contain an integral number of days, its biggest drawback is that subsequent eclipses are visible from different parts of the globe. Although they are 1/3 day displacement shifts the eclipse path 120 degrees westward with each cycle, and the series returns to the same geographic region every 3 Saros, or 56 years and 34 days. Now, when they get it more accurate than that, it's from an observation of the same Saros that occurred 18 years before. So now they've been watching them since the 1600s, so that's why they're so accurate, because these things repeat every 18 years, 11 days, 8 hours. Modern eclipse prediction. In order to predict the general characteristics as well as the location, circumstances for a solar eclipse, high accuracy ephemerids for both the sun and the moon are required. Conventional ephemerids tabulate the positions and distances of these bodies with respect to the Earth's center. However, the eclipse calculator is primarily interested in the position, dimensions, and velocity of the moon's shadow on the Earth's surface. In 1824, the Prussian astronomer and mathematician Frederick Bessel introduced a new theory for the prediction of the eclipses. It was so successful that it remains today as the most powerful technique, even with the application of the digital computer. What Bessel did was to express the ephemerids of the sun and the moon in terms of the moon's shadow. This change in the frame of reference greatly simplifies the mathematics and geometry without any sacrifice in accuracy. Again, this belies your assertion, Paulster X, that they use a computer program.